Rex Jordan,
Here, yes.
Dick Lay, Curtis Snell,
Here, John
David Gordon, Victoria Vasquez,
Ani, yes.
David Walkenstick,
Aye. And yes.
Brian Warner.
Ani, yes.
We do have a quorum.
Okay. You have the list of suggested donations from administration, and we have Kim Teehee here, who would be happy to answer any questions that you might have. But I need a motion and a second to open discussion.
So moved.
Second.
Okay, I have a motion and a second on the proposed list of political donations. You can direct your questions to Kim and Kanan. Counselor Hargis?
I noticed that we have two that are listed twice, Langford and Murray. Why are they listed twice?
Those are listed twice so that it's a reflection of where we are going to direct the funding to. So for Langford, for example, we have 100 left over to give to families of James Langford before we max out. And then we can't give any more to that particular area. And then the other is the PAC, and so that's the 2,600. They're just a reflection of the two being separate. And I'm looking at this, and what we probably should have done too is with Mullen, it's the same thing. We actually combined. I just missed that, so I apologize for that. 7,700, for example, 5,000 of that will go to his PAC, the Mullen Victory Fund, and 2,700 of that will go to his general. Council approved for FY15 2,700 to go towards his primary, and this one would reflect the 2,700 to go towards his general. That will max him out for the remainder of this year, 2015. But that's what that's for. It's just a reflection of the different areas where they'll go to, and it's just breaking it down for you so that you can see.
So we're actually, what we're doing is maxing out twice,
To two different areas for them.
but it's to the same person.
Yes.
I'm not sure I agree with that. And on the Hillary Clinton donation, why are we donating now?
Because Secretary Clinton is the front runner for the Democratic nominee.
Not the
and
nominee yet.
She's not the nominee yet, but she has a proven track record for supporting Indian country issues. She has been for Indian country all along the way, whether it's healthcare, women's rights, violence, domestic violence issues. She has been there every step of the way. There's a track record that we can clearly look to. The other part of that too is if you donate early, particularly to somebody who's the front runner, it gives us a voice at the table, a seat at the table when it comes to helping to develop their policy materials. Right now, none of the candidates have really put much out there on Indian country issues, and certainly having a voice at the table gives us an opportunity to make sure that what they're advancing, what they stand for in their platform, will reflect our views. Similarly, because we do tend to give on a bipartisan basis, when the Republican, candidates sort of weed out and it becomes clear that there's a front runner, certainly this committee, can approve a similar donation to a Republican candidate too. And my hope is that we will also have an ability to help influence whatever platform that they develop when it comes to Indian country issues.
Well, my concern's not either Republican or Democrat. I just don't think I agree with donating when she's not the actual nominee yet. That's my objection at the moment.
Counselor Austin?
I do notice we have a donation at the bottom to the DNC,
Yes.
but I don't see a likewise to the RNC. Is that by design at this point again?
Well, at the very top of the list, you'll see NRCC. That's the National Republican Campaign Committee. So we're basically given to two big parties on the Republican side and the Democratic side. The Republican side is the NRCC. That's a $33,400 giving. And on the bottom is the DNC, which is considerably less, but is $2,500 to the DNC. And So that's, in the sense of giving to two major parties, we are doing that. The one's the NRCC and one is the DNC. You're welcome.
Okay, but am I reading this incorrectly? The 33,000 that's going to the NRCC, it looks like in the notes, those are actually credited to Mark Wayne Mullen and Tom Cole?
That's correct. So each member within their caucus has an assessment that they are required to raise. And Mr. Cole and Mr. Mullen, just as council approved previously to the NRCC, we tend to give to the NRCC and make sure that Mr. Cole and Mr. Mullen share 50-50 what we give, and that goes towards their assessment. And that helps them out with leadership, in turn helps us out with our priorities.
So in truth, on this particular list alone, Congressman Mullen is actually getting in the neighborhood of $21,000, 15 through the NRCC, and $7,700 to him and his PAC.
Yes. Yep. So he will get credit for the half of the 4,000, and then he will get the 7,700, and that will maxes out for 2015 because we will have given 5,000 to his PAC, and then 2,700 to his primary and to his general. We are also maxing out with the rest of the Oklahoma delegation too. You'll see 2,700 listed there. They also get 2,700 for the general. That will complete their giving for 2015.
Any other discussion or proposed changes?
I don't know. I have a hard time with this because, I mean, I thought the max was 5, and here we're given 6 times that.
The max is fine, Counselor, for the PACs that we give, and what we're doing is helping Mr. Cole and Mr. Mullen with their assessments for the NRCC,
Okay,
where we can do
I
that.
guess I can look over that,
Yeah.
but you're still giving 77 to Mark, and then you're going to max out on twice on Langford and twice on Murray?
Right. So those are
Doesn't seem legal.
well. So it is within the law. Everything here is within the law. We're
I'm
trying
sure
to
it is,
we're
but
trying
it
to
just
stay within
doesn't
the
look
limits of what we
appropriate.
can give, but we're also trying to help our delegation. So Mr. Langford, for example, he's our delegation. He's on the Senate Committee on Indian Affairs. He's been supportive of our issues. His staff have come out here to visit us, and so it's just a reflection of the relationship that we're trying to strengthen with him. But it is, 2,700. We gave 2,700 for his primary, and so it's for his primary and for his general. So it does equal 2,700, which was similar to what this committee approved for FY15 giving for his primary. So this is the help of the general in the same amount, but it's going to two different funds.
I guess since they are Oklahomans, I can, well, I can't agree with it anyway, either way, but on Miss Murray, I mean, she's not an Oklahoman, and we're going to still give 10,000?
Yeah, so, what the tribe has done has been very sophisticated in its giving. And Indian country has very few allies in Congress. And so one of the things that we look at when trying to put a plan together for your consideration is who are our allies, the factors including our delegation, our factors including members who are on the committees that have jurisdiction over issues that matter to us, leadership, the Democratic and Republican leadership and their priorities, and also, just if they're friends with Indian country. So for Patty Murray, for example, she is a leadership priority for the Democrats. She is also an appropriator, and she is a champion for Indian country. I have, personally seen her go out of her way and to become so informed about our issues that when it comes to member discussions, she's willing, like Mr. Cole is, to get out there and go member to member to educate other members about the issues that matter to Indian country. And she's responsible for the increases that you see in Indian programs, primarily Bureau of Indian Affairs and Indian Health Service on the Senate side, increases of the funding. And she is a very clear leadership priority. Senator Tester, who's the ranking member of the Senate Committee on Indian Affairs and the chairman of the Democratic Senatorial Campaign Committee, has listed her as a top priority. And so just in keeping with trying to make sure we're, reaching out to our allies, our advocates, our leadership priorities, somebody who leadership listens to, who can have the best, whose word means the most and has the best influence over other members, is why we have chosen to, for your consideration, to try to max out to her for the remainder of this year.
Counselor, are you done? I'm sorry, Frankie, go ahead.
I just don't agree with those that I've discussed. And as far as I a friend of Indian country, I think one max would be plenty. One, I just think one is plenty as far as Miss Murray, for sure, because she is not from Oklahoma. But that's my opinion. Go ahead.
Counselor Jordan?
On the NRCC,
Yes, sir.
we're paying the dues for Mark Wayne and Cole.
Yes, sir.
What kind of dues are $33,400?
That's so to the major parties, the maximum is $33,400. It's for the National Republican Campaign Committee to actively recruit other members to support their frontline members who need assistance with getting reelected. It also helps us get a foot in the door with the leadership and also with those candidates to start educating them and informing them about our issues. It also helps Mr. Cole and Mr. Mullen directly because they get to split the donation, and that helps them with their assessments. And as you know, Mr. Cole has been rising in leadership, and Mr. Mullen has also made overtures to try to rise in leadership too. And these kinds of support assists them with those efforts, as well as helps other members get reelected who can assist us with our priorities too.
So you don't think that we should do the same things for the Democratic Party?
Well, we've got a DNC piece there, and that's definitely
Yeah, for
up to
$2,500.
Yeah, that's definitely up to council. I mean, we can, this is
A lot of difference
this is-
between $2,400
yeah,
and
and
$33,000.
yeah, absolutely. And definitely we can spread this out. I mean, the split between Republican and Democrat on this particular list is 45%, 54% being Republican. But we can even that out in the spring when council meets again to consider these, and we can certainly look at the other parties to give to. I will say that there is also the National Republican Senatorial Campaign Committee. I mean, our delegation, who are, as you know, all Republican, will be looking at our giving too. So I think this council has in the past not given to another big party just simply because, we have senators who are also looking at whether or not we would give to the Republican Senatorial Campaign Committee. But certainly that's something worth considering. We can consider it when we get back into when we make subsequent recommendations.
Counselor Garvin?
Thank you very much for your report. I agree with some of it, and some of it I don't. But as far as Murray, I think she's been a friend of Cherokee and all the Indians. I'd like to see us a little more balanced down the bottom between the Democrats and the Republicans. Democrats 58,000 and the Republicans 70. Next time, try to flip-flop it.
Yes, sir. Thank you for that. And that's the plan overall, because this committee approved $400,000 for giving and out of the FY16 budget, and this is just a part of that. Overall, we plan to have a 50-50 split. Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Chair.
You're welcome. Is there any other discussion? Yes.
On
Counselor
the
Harris.
Hillary Clinton, if you give $3,000 now, and she becomes the Democratic nomination, are you gonna wanna max out then at $5,000, or is it, will we only be able to give $2,000?
Well, this will just complete out the 2015 giving. So in 2016, these limits start all over again. And so, and so, you know, we can give again in 2016. And those amounts, you know, we'll find out more in 2016 who the Republican nominee is. If there becomes a front runner that we think we should give to, we can look at that as well. But we certainly, you know, can consider additional giving in 2016. This is just meant to close out 2015.
Counselor Watkins, were you done? I'm
Yeah,
sorry.
I
keep
just disagree with it.
Counselor Watkins, Dick?
Are we, as being the political action committee, do we set the budget somehow, or can we amend this to set it, or are we just voting on this?
I could have been.
You can make changes.
Okay. I'm kind of with everyone that's been talking about the unbalance. If, I would like to make it friendly, if we could split the difference between the Republican National Committee and the Democrat National Committee, just to be bipartisan. I don't want to set favor to one party or the other. I know you guys mentioned it's best to be early, put your best foot forward early, and I guess that shows favor in the political realm of things. And I totally agree with what you guys are doing with Hillary. You know, if she's that person, then you're gonna max out, you know, the spring on that. And you guys are kind of Republican. Yes, well, Republican, they haven't even selected a person yet, so you have no idea where they're going with that. But is that feasible for you guys, or is that going to hurt y'all's if we split the difference between both national parties?
At this point, because we are giving so heavily to the NRCC, I mean, helping Mr. Cole and Mr. Mullen, I mean, that's the intent behind it, is to assist our delegation who's been so helpful to us in this. They don't get a similar credit for giving to the RNC. My hope is that if council wants to consider something like that, that's a big investment. That's $33,400. That would be for the DNC, for the RNC, for the NRSC, which is the Republican Senatorial Campaign Committee. And so I, again, because we do the NRCC giving, it is for Cole and Mullen. The RNC giving, we wouldn't have the ability to assign it and to give credit to a particular member for that giving. And so my hope is that at this point, this particular allocation, keep in mind, is just part of the FY16 dollars. The total amount is $400, and so we can in FY16 or in early spring of 2016 come back, and if we want to give to other big parties, whether it's more to the DNC or in our SC, I mean, we certainly can consider that.
Yeah, there's just looking at the very bottom. There's about a $12,000 spread between the Democrats, Republicans, and what Councilman Garvin was talking about. And I think we could resolve this issue if we did split the difference between the two committees. If say put $15,000 apiece, $15,000 towards them and $15,000 for the Democrat. And I think we would balance the spread a little better. But those are just my thoughts.
Mm-hmm.
That's all. Thank you.
Councilor Buzzer?
And I agree from what Councilor Walkingstick's saying, but she has been up on Capitol Hill for years, and she knows how this committee works. We have two Native Americans that are in power up there, and I think we need to support these two right now. I would support them if they were on the Democrat side, but you've got two Native people here. One happens to be a Cherokee. The other one is Chickasaw, I believe. We need to support our Native people, regardless of where they are, whether if they're Republican or Democrat, as long as they're working for our Native people. So I would leave it like it is, even though I like the idea of what you just said, Councilor Walkingstick, but if they weren't the two natives in there, I would support it 100%, but we got some Native people up there that we need to give some dollars to support what they're trying to do for Native American country, so I'd leave it just like it is.
And Madam Chair, if I may, I just want to emphasize too that this is not the end of the list. This is just building off of what Council approved in FY15 for giving, and it's completing 2015. The intent definitely is with the remainder of the funding, which is $271,000. We will make recommendations for the rest of FY16 dollars that will complete, the federal giving. But in addition, we'll have state recommendations to make as well. And so, and the idea is that you will see the 50-50 balance in the total giving plan. This is just for right now. The recommendation is.
Counselor Thornton?
Yes, I think what you just said is correct. And what I'm really interested in is supporting our people that are in Congress, Senate, or what they're in, representing. But I do think that, like David, I think after we come back 2016, which is 2 months away, that we fund the Democratic Party National Committee with the same amount of money. And that's about the only way I'll vote for this. But somebody's going to have to make me a promise they'll do that.
Well, certainly, we will work with you on the chairwoman on the list.
We can add that to this,
I think we can make that pledge.
payable in 2016.
Yeah, I think we can make that pledge to even the playing field. Is that correct?
We can certainly take that, but just keep in mind too that we're talking about $33,400 at the NRCC, where we can split the allocation between our two delegation members, Mr. Cole and Mr. Mullen. Once we give to the DNC, and I'm not saying it's wrong or right.
I don't have any problem with Mullen,
Yeah,
but I do have a problem with Republican Democrats.
right,
You
right.
may have as many Democrats here as you have Republicans, so,
right.
I think you need to come back and, I think we need to actually put it in this. Act bill or what we're doing here, motion. So I'm gonna make the motion that we do it 2016 early as possible.
Second motion.
Could you say exactly what the motion is that you want to do in 2016?
That, what have I been talking for?
You split the difference between the two.
To pay the difference between the 25, is it 2,500? Yeah, and 33,400 to the Democratic Party.
To the Democratic National.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
And Counselor, I would just say too that, and just to add, just so that everybody is aware, because we don't have a Democratic member of Congress, when we give to the DNC, just so you're aware, we don't have the similar ability to have our funding count towards a member's assessment, because even the Democratic members also have that same obligations to their caucuses.
There's not any Native Americans that are Democrat in Congress?
Well, we typically give to our, make sure that the credit goes to our delegation. And so I know that, we'll have other of the Oklahoma delegation looking at whatever we give to the big party. So I just want you to be aware of that, potentially coming back at us. But, we certainly, council can do what it wants to do
Correct.
here, absolutely. And then,
So
in 2016, if you want to continue
Add that
down.
on as a
Would
friendly
you do that
amendment.
as friendly? Okay,
Yeah.
that works. Is that good? Okay, you had the initial motion.
Sorry?
You have the initial motion
You accept
to
his
approve.
Oh, yes, I
So
accept
you
it.
accept, okay.
Okay, we got some more that want to talk. Counselor Snell?
Well, after looking at this and everything, I think we're gonna leave it like it is. Because they work on this political scene every day. We're out here looking at holes in the roof.
Yeah.
There's a lot of difference there, in my way of thinking. But I would think that, ought to be left like this, and let them, I'm not cheering about them Republicans getting more money than Democrats, but we can make that right in 16.
It'll even out.
That's all.
Okay. Counselor Hatfield?
This doesn't have anything to do with this, but it does. When I was in San Diego, I met a gentleman, and did you speak with him as well, Billy Welling? Or were you in San Diego or was it LA? And he is running for Congress, and he's Cherokee. Have you heard anything about, I have his information, if I knew we were it's in my other folder, I would have brought the information, but he's Cherokee,
Okay.
San Diego. I think his name's Billy Welling, so.
And he's a congressional candidate?
Yes, yes.
No, please provide the information to us, maybe.
I will find out
Okay.
more about that.
So
Thank you.
we can consider it for the next allocation.
Counselor Crittenden?
I'm seeing with the money, like the Republican money, the big one up here, that's going to 2 known supporters of Indian country, right? And the DNC is just, here you go, DNC, spread it how you may, right?
I mean, we can do our best to make sure that the DNC, you know, by giving them that contribution, we certainly can make sure that they recognize what our priorities are, and we will certainly try to leverage that as much as possible. But in terms of an actual member of Congress getting credit for that, that will not happen. But that's not to say you shouldn't do it. It's
Right.
just to say that, you know, we've got limited amounts of resources here, and
This is
so
up to
sometimes-
us at the top, right? And this is really not, right, once the money's given to the DNC.
We will just have to make sure that we get the biggest bang for our buck, that we watch our giving with them, and that they are aware of what our priorities are, and that we have opportunity within the DNC to educate and inform.
Right, so if, I really struggled with this. Simon Cowell, I really struggled with this. You know, I was talking to Canaan and Will. You know, we're here to look after the Cherokee people. And, you know, I haven't done that for 40 years. I mean, respected, tried to take care of what I could. For 40 years, I've been taking the candidates and seeing what's closest to home, you know, and Brian and I, different ones, looking through Cherokee eyes, like the job presented. You know, I respect what you've done, and you know, the different ones that had a hand in this. But I just wanted the council to know it was a hard thing to look at for me, as well as everybody, I'm sure. You know, because some of these names on here I would have never. But looking at it through the way I'm supposed to, there's some things we all could look at, but I want, and it's no secret, you know, that we're televised and things, but I want the council and everybody listening to know that it, just like for everybody, it wasn't an easy thing. But I have confidence. You've been there. You know who speaks up for us, who really doesn't. So that's where I've came to feel comfortable with this. So
Thank you, sir.
thank you.
Counselor Austin?
I'm not comfortable tying your hands with saying you must take an equal amount and give it to the other people at this point. Saying that you must make it balanced at the next report, I'm okay with that kind of approach. But to tie your hands and say you've got to give it to the Democratic National Committee, at this point, I think would be tying your hands. Maybe that's not the most effective Democratic cause that we could give the money to. Maybe it would be better used to give it to targeted races. I would rather leave it and let's see how that can be done to where it remains balanced. Because I think if we arbitrarily say you must give to the Democratic National Committee, it ties our hands, in my opinion. And I don't want to tie our hands at making us as effective as we can.
You know, the way I look at this, and you're just stating it, I look through Indian eyes too. You got 16 Democrats on here that support Native Americans. What are they gonna feel like when you don't support the Democratic Party? You try to say it's not Democrat or it's not Republican, but why is there an R or a D here along the backside of these names? Our people need to support this Democratic Party as much as they do the Republican Party, simply because these people are supporting us.
Are you talking to
So,
me?
why not even out the playing field?
Who are you addressing, Counselor?
I don't care. Anybody.
What I was saying, if I may, was the two Republicans that we know are for us, they got the 33, right? Is that right?
Who knows? I don't know. I don't know them personally. I've heard of them.
Okay. It's,
One of them I don't really care for.
what I was looking at
So
is, we know where
you
that's
can look out of your Indian eyes and say, I like a boat, so, but still yet, down in my country, we'll look out and we'll say, well, one of them there, I don't support.
But to split it evenly, it won't be split evenly to give those two Republicans that amount and give it to the DNC. Because the DNC spreads it out. If you found two Democrats that you wanted to do the
If you spread it
same.
out amongst these people that's on this list, it will.
Counselor, may I maybe offer a suggestion to your friendly amendment? Is since it's for the future in 2016 in a few months, perhaps what we can do, kind of getting along with what you were saying and what Counselor Austin was saying, is we can work
How do
with
you
the
know
balance.
those people are gonna be reelected?
This is well, they're this is to
When
assist
their
them,
term comes up.
right? So it's our attempt to help them get reelected. But one of the things that we can do
You're not
is
gonna help these other 16?
we are, because you see them on the list, because we have allocated amounts for them within the limits of the law
Yeah, there's
to finish up
1,500.
to finish up for 2015.
There's-
But what maybe a suggestion would be, Counselor, just based upon your friendly amendment, to
I like to call for the vote. Once they're leaving.
You want to
To,
clarify the motions and the
Have a
second?
second on the vote?
Yes.
Okay,
Wait, I have one question.
okay.
On Van Hollen and Duckworth, we have the amount of 5,400. Is that two different funds as well? Because that's in the max 5?
so it's Duckworth for Illinois, and PAC, and then $400 for the general.
Okay.
So we weren't maxing out to her. It's just, she's a veteran Native American advocate and ally, and we didn't give to her in FY15, so it's just to give her support, because she's a big priority for leadership, because she's running for the U.S. Senate.
Counselor Vasquez?
I would just like to make a comment that I did earlier express concern with some of the things that were stated here, but it was just to a couple of people. So I wanted to go on record that I also had issues with this, but now that it has been explained, the way it was explained, I go along with that you guys are doing the proper thing, and you know better than I do who's doing what. The only thing that I would recommend or ask for, and I did state this to you earlier, is that the next time this comes up and we have, the council gets a little bit more notice, and maybe a conference call, maybe 2 conference calls where we can ask questions then, instead of waiting till the day of the meeting. I just think we need more time.
And Madam Chair, if I may elaborate on a point that I wanted to raise earlier. If it's helpful at all, given that there is a balance for the remainder of the FY16 dollars, we could perhaps propose 2 plans. One that would reflect Councilor Thornton's idea of putting the remainder of the giving to DNC to max them out at 33.4, and then putting a plan together on who we would give to individually if we could allocate out that 33.4 out, so that you could see yourself if it's helpful to do it in a more targeted way, or to do a big party and the council can make a decision based upon
I
maybe
do think
that
the more
proposal.
information you can give us, the more palatable it's going to be for all of us. So that would be
Voted on
appreciated.
and stuff.
Chief Byrd had some comments tonight.
We're looking at 128,000 here, and this has really become a priority, and it's, you really have to have the finances to be noticed at the DC level these days. It's really changed in the past 10, 15 years. And we as a tribe are fortunate that we do have the funds to be able to play at this level. It's unfortunate some tribes cannot. I've been there where we got the funding in competition because of who we were and who we worked with, and other tribes did not. I'm not really, I'm not just tickled, overjoyed about the way this is set up here, because it looks like it's kind of split one way. But at the same time, just because they are a Democrat doesn't mean that they support us. I want to see the people, if we separate it out, I want to know what committee they're on. And I want to know how they are for Indian country. Because I'll look at some of these congressional people, and they're not our allies. And just because they got a D or R by their name, I mean, I don't think we have to ante up. And you know, let's have a narrative, and you guys have done a good job with this, is, you know, putting what committee they're on and why we give to these groups. But let's be careful. Let's just don't ante up to anybody because they've got that D by their name or R by their name if they are not friend to Indian country.
Councilor Walkenstick?
Chief Byrd makes a good point. I would be in favor as well of just taking both of them off the list, the National and Democrat and Republican Party, because we don't know who they're going to give that money to. And then later we can come back and you guys can bring us names and we'll know how much we're giving to them. Because it's best if we give them the money individually versus going through a third party and have them give the money. I think there's a deeper appreciation there if that's a legal way of doing things.
So, if I may, Chairwoman.
Go ahead and address it, please.
So for the NRCC, our giving for the NRCC is actually expired now, and to complete 2015 is the reason why, you know, we need to have that, you know, renewal now. And the only way to give more for Mr. Cole and Mr. Mullen to show their support is through something like the NRCC, where they can actually split our donation of $33,400.
Is
we can't do it.
A organization to exceed the cap?
It's so the big
I mean,
the big
is
parties
it
have their own limits. So the National Republican Campaign Committee, there's a big 4 committees, and so the maximum to them is $33,400. That's the maximum. We can't give individually like that. That's why the PACs are $5,000, and that's why for members it's $2,700 for the primary and $2,700 for the general, and that's why you see these $2,700 amounts for our delegation to finish out 2015.
Yeah.
But for the NRCC, because it's a party, a big, you know, we can't give that way, but we can give $33,400, and that way Mr. Cole and Mr. Mullen can divide the amount evenly between them and get credit for that. But without that as the vehicle, we couldn't give
We're
them that
not
credit.
exceeding, we're maximizing.
Yeah.
Well, that's
For
that
2015.
I wasn't. I meant it as exceeding. Like, is this a way to process money to get around the 5,000 max and exceed the 5,000 through going through an organization?
I wouldn't call it getting
Maximize
around
it.
it, but it's certainly using another vehicle that will allow us legally to support our allies, Mr. Cole and Mr. Mullen.
So what's the total amount a committee can give to a delegate?
So
What's the max amount? Is there a cap that a committee, National Republican Congressional Committee, what's the most they can give to a delegate?
to a member of Congress that they are supporting, I mean,
Is there a max?
they have their priorities, so they determine what their priorities are in their leadership. They work with their leadership, which Mr. Cole is one of them on NRCC.
Is it
to help.
10,000, 5,000?
I'm not sure that they give more than 5,000 per candidate.
Okay, that's the question I was asking.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, Sounds like we got a whole bunch of different ways of doing things around here, but
Counselor Thornton's gonna clear it all up
Okay.
for us,
No,
right
I
here, right,
can't.
yeah, that's what you promised me.
I'd be sitting up there in Congress right now.
Heaven.
But it's kind of ironic to me, folks, because last year or last summer, when this come out, you can check off Mark Wayne Mullen because he wasn't on the list. I brought forward to give him funding because he was from my district and he was Cherokee. But he wasn't even on this list. So, as far as the other one, I wished he wasn't on the list. But that's just me. So I'm going to withdraw my friendly amendment. If it's okay. Whoever got a second.
And stay with this original one.
Okay, so are we ready to vote on this? And what we're voting on is
Is there any
this
friendly?
list.
He's the
He
one that
withdrew his
called me.
friendly. So what we're voting on is this list as it's printed.
Let's do roll call.
but so we're voting on this list right here.
Right.
Yeah.
Yes. This
Oh,
year,
let's
right
go all
now.
in favor, let's go. We got a motion,
You
got a
want roll
second?
call, or
Let's
do
do
you-
this first.
I wanna
All in
say-
favor,
wait,
signify.
wait. I would support this on contingent that we are 50-50 at the end in springtime. That's my
Yes, yes, sir.
contingency. Okay.
Well, you got a motion.
Second.
That was a motion.
That in springtime, we come back, that this is split evenly across the board, so there's no
I don't think
bipartisanship.
I don't think you can do that.
I don't think we can
I don't think
promise
you do a
that.
contingency like that.
Okay, so do we need to vote on that motion
Yeah.
to shore it up? Okay, so what we're voting on now is guaranteeing 50-50 split in the spring.
Yes.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
I'll do
Just
roll.
go ahead and do a roll call, Shelley, on that.
Yeah, for ayes.
So it's pardon me, it's an amendment to this, or an addition? We're not voting on this at all, is that correct?
That is correct.
We're
You're
voting
not
on his
voting on the
motion,
list.
second, come back and do it 50-50 in the spring.
Okay, so can we do any discussion, or will that be after the vote?
Yeah, we've already discussed it. Now the next will be is to approve this one, yea or nay.
Okay.
Roll call.
And remember, in the spring, this is only 128,000.
Mm-hmm.
We can come back and allocate as we want. This is just trying to maximize what the remainder of the year. That's all we're trying to do right now.
I'm not a big fan of the language of 50-50. It's more like equitable.
That's
It's
what
a
we're
better
gonna vote on.
language to
Vote
me.
against it.
Yeah, you're gonna have a chance to vote on that.
Yeah.
We're doing a roll call on shoring up 50-50 in the spring, not this list. We're ready.
Frankie Hargis.
No.
Wanda Hatfield.
No.
Rex Jordan.
Yes.
Dick Lay. Curtis Snell.
No.
Janice Taylor.
No.
David Thornton.
Yes.
Victoria Vasquez.
No.
David Walkenstick.
Yes.
Brian Warner.
No.
Buell England.
No.
Keith Austin.
No.
Jack Baker is absent. Harley Buzzard.
No.
Joe Byrd.
No.
Sean Crittenden.
No.
Don Garvin.
Yes.
We have 4 yes and 11 no.
Okay, so that goes. Okay, so now we're gonna vote on this list as it's printed. We didn't make any changes, we just did discussion. So all those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed,
No.
do I have one or two? I have two, and I'm abstaining.
I abstain.
I abstain too.
Okay, so
3 abstentions, 2 noes.
Sound like Jackie Baltimore.
Abstentions are Janice, Frankie, and Walkenstick.
We still have buttons.
That's about it.
Okay, are we good?
Okay, so that ends our PAC meeting unless there's some announcements.
Motion to adjourn.
Got a motion to adjourn? And a second. All those in favor of adjournment?
We have the photo
They
op.
they have to schedule the PAC meetings out. I don't know when, there's no, photo op at 550.
5:30?
550.
That was the most.
It's